The Honorable Mr. Stephen Weiber, Director, Policy and Advocacy of the International Federation of Library Association and Institutions. The Honorable Bapak Dr. Zulfikar Zen, MA, Vice Chairman of Indonesian Librarian Association. The Honorable Ibu Madia Reni Sulaiman, Librarian of National Research and Innovation Agency. The Honorable Intermediate High Leadership and Pratama High Leadership of National Library of Indonesia. The Honorable Librarian Coordinator of National Library of Indonesia, who in this occasion represented by Ibu Doktoranda Woro Titi Haryanti, MA. The Honorable Main Expert Librarian of National Library of Indonesia. The Honorable Representatives of Librarian Association. The Honorable Structural and Functional Officials of National Library of Indonesia, and invited guests who attend this event on site or join online through Zoom. I'm Laura Alexandra, acting as the Master of Ceremony for today's event. Welcome to the Librarian Talks with theme Engaging in IFLA to Strengthen the Future of Libraries, today on 29th of August, 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, starting our event this morning, let us sing the national anthem of Indonesia Raya, followed by Mars Perpustakaan. For the audience, would you please to stand up?
perjuangan bangsa, amanat Pancasila. Baca buku, tingkatkanlah harta manusia seutuhnya. Lestarilah budayanya, pustaka Indonesia Raya. Raih tujuan kemerdekaan, adil dan makmur sentosa.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's open this event by chanting prayers. The chanting prayers will be led by Bapak Muhammad Qadir Qadir.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak dan Ibu, mari kita bersama-sama menundukkan kepala seraya berdoa kepada Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, dan izinkan saya untuk memandunya secara Islam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Ya Allah, ya Rahmat, pada hari ini kami memohon ridho dan izin-Mu. Berkahilah semua langkah dan perbuatan kami, dan jadikanlah itu semua nilai ibadah dan nilai ilmu yang bermanfaat bagi kami. Berikanlah kelancaran kegiatan ini. Ya Allah, ya Wahid, perkuatlah persatuan di antara kami. Janganlah Engkau biarkan ada perpecahan di antara kami. Ya Allah, ya Alim, Engkau yang maha kaya atas segala ilmu dan pengetahuan. Jagalah kami yang menuntut ilmu dan bekerja untuk senantiasa istiqomah beramal di jalan-Mu sebagaimana yang Engkau perintahkan. Berilah kami ilmu yang bermanfaat, kefahaman yang luas, dan berilah kami kemampuan untuk dapat melaksanakannya. Ya Allah, ya Ghafur, ampunilah dosa kami, dosa orang tua kami, dosa para pemimpin kami, dan dosa para pendahulu kami. Tempatkanlah kami dan mereka semua dalam lindungan rahmat dan ampunan-Mu. Ya Allah, ya Mujib, Engkau yang maha mengabulkan doa. Perkenankanlah doa dan permohonan kami. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next program of this opening event, the welcoming remarks from our main expert librarian. Please welcome Ibu Dr. Anda Woro Titi Haryanti, MA.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. A very good morning to our special guest, Mr. Steven Weber, is the Director of Planning and Advocacy from IFLA, and Dr. Zulfikar Zain from the Vice President of Indonesian Library Association. Dan di sini ada Ibu Media Reni, I prefer to call her Reni Sulaiman from BRIN. Dan tentu saja kepada Bapak-Bapak Kepala Pusat dan Ibu Pusat di Lingkungan Perpustakaan Nasional, dan juga Bapak dan Ibu Pustakawan Utama di Lingkungan Perpustakaan Nasional, dan seluruh peserta pertemuan pada pagi hari ini yang hadir baik itu secara daring maupun luring. First of all, I would like, on behalf of the National Library Director, I would like to extend a very warm welcome and regards from him. Yeah, welcome to Jakarta. Welcome to our National Library. It is new building, actually it's 5 years old. Yeah, we launched this in 2017. It is an honor to have all of you here to talk about the engagement in IFLA to strengthen the future of libraries. Indeed, we would like to get closer to IFLA, and we want IFLA to get to know more about us. We are part of the Global Library project. And even the project was terminated, but we have adopted the project become national project and become one of the national priority project, and it is stated in the National Planning Bureau. And we become that, we develop a library transformation based on the inclusion. And we built more than thousands of libraries in the villages as well and in the district. And that all of them are work very good. And it means give access to the people, to the library, to learn in the library. And we changed the library not only for the stack of the books, but we changed library function. The place to study, the place to hang out, the place to learn and to share what they have. And we have in here, actually, one of the guests is from the Gunung Kidul, and you can talk to him later on, that it's a very good example what we have in the transformation. This is the Global Library Project. And we are very, very happy with that project, the result of the project, that tomorrow, I think Pak Sarif, our director, will talk more about it. And yes, we're proud of that project and we're part of the global libraries. And then also, as we all know, that Indonesia is an archipelago country, and which is consisting of thousands of big and small islands, scattered along our border. We have 3 different time zones. You can imagine. British is only one time zone. It's a very tiny compared us in here. You only have summer and winter. We have all sunny all the time. So please do come here again and again. And then get closer to us in here. And also that within the countries, we have around 160,600 libraries. That is consists of public libraries in all levels. What I mean in all levels, I mean that we have one national libraries, and then we also have in the district, in the provincial level, we have 34 provincial levels, and then we have 514 libraries in the district levels. That is mandatory from our Library Act. And then not mentioned, we do have also school libraries. It is more than 250,000 schools libraries, but only around 50% that have the libraries. And then also we do have university libraries. It's more than 3,000 libraries, public and private universities, yes. And we also have special libraries that's come from the special libraries, and it is also mandatory that each institution should have library or at least have the institutional repository. That part of the part of this library system in Indonesian, national library system. And that make us very big because we are different actually, with the, the condition of those libraries is varied, Some of them are very well established and some of them are still needed hands to help them. And under the Library Act, the NLE has the obligation to develop all those types, to develop and to advocate all those types of libraries. That is make us different and unique than other national library in the world. I'm sure that the National Library, you know that what is the function of the National Library, but I think you don't know that what we have in here, because the director is assigned and also responsible directly to the president. And we also have to develop and advocate those libraries. So that make us very big. It is from the central, all types of the libraries. And that is why we realize that how big we are and how big is the responsible. That's why we embrace all the stakeholders available, from the central and to the local government, private sectors, but also last but not least, also the Indonesian Library Associations. and other professional association forums. We work closely with the IPI that we call the Indonesian Library Association IPI. IPI becomes partner to develop libraries in Indonesia. Under one of our centers here in the National Library, we have Center for Development Librarian. Yeah, that it's mainly we're talking about working about the librarian there. Yeah, and it's we have quite a lot of things working together with IPI, yeah, such as defining the library level of competence, defining keys of librarian performance indicators, defining national standard for libraries, conducting national and international conference, of course, and give advocacy, designing and implementation trainings, and many other activities. I think that is within your scope of work. Yeah, you can talk to us, the center. I think you have communicated quite well with Yudo, yeah, and also Vira can also help you. That's what things that we have done so far. Yeah, even that we have so many activities with the IPI, but unfortunately, sorry to say, IPI doesn't make any much noise in the IFLA. Yeah, that's why I hope through Pak Zulfikar and the team of the IPI, starting sending news on what is happening in Indonesia, in the IPI, yeah, to IFLA. So if these big countries with lot of libraries, once we talk, then IFLA will be very noisy with us because we have a lot of stories. You could imagine that the stories from all levels, yeah. We have the villages that we develop village library. In here we have 78,000 village, and some of them we have already contacted with the village libraries, and it becomes one village, one libraries. And that's a good thing, that if we're starting sending news to IFLA, then I'm sure that we can make IFLA more varied with our news in here. What's happening far away from IFLA, but we have activities in here. And that is what we have to do actually. Even for the National Library as well, that we have to send things, starting with directors. He also sent some of our books that is for the study impacts. I think that probably that someone can give, Eddie still have the impact, impacts, nanti coba dicarikan buku tentang impact, nanti kita bisa serah. Oh, probably tomorrow, that keep it for tomorrow. Yeah, Pak Sarif will give it to you. Yeah, we have the impact stories and the impact videos on what we have done so far in the village. And we also have the partners as well in the university that also we have a lot of works together. And for that also you are interested in the digital area that the National Library has connected. We have the Indonesian One Search program that connected more than 3,000 institutions joining us. And we have more than 12 million documents, yeah, available, accessible for everybody. And we also provided free. And we also have all programs called the e-resources, yeah. But you have to be the member of the National Library first. But it's free, it's open for everybody as long as you are the member. The Indonesian One Search, no need to become the member of the National Libraries. And we also have ePusnas, that is full text based on the Android application that you can download, and that's also free, full text that you can read it. Yeah. So we don't have we come to the people if the people cannot come to us. That's the idea. We get closer to the people. We deliver the information to them. And if you are interested in the manuscript, we also have that is the website for the portal for the manuscript. Yeah. And then if you are also interested in the manuscript itself, that our colleagues can take you to 8th or the 9th floor, then you can see what we have here. and that is our treasure and very what's it if you really, and I'm sure that somebody, our colleagues ya, ada Ibu Terry atau ini nanti bisa dibantu teman-teman untuk meng-guide Pak Angkasa, saya rasa ya, Angkasa from the Pusat Sintara ya, nanti bisa melihat what we have in here, go grand tour in the National Library. Yes, so this is what I call that. This is one of the well-established library, yeah, in the area. Okay, I'm not going to take a long of your time here because we are very eager to listen more about what Stephen is going to say. What should we do? How to get engaged with the IFLA? So we will, more and more activities can be done together and we can collaborate with what you have and what we have. Hopefully that is to strengthen our future condition of the library within Indonesia or in global. So we can share our knowledge and you can share what we should and we can work together. Itu saja saya sampaikan. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Woro, for the remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get to our main session today and kindly invited to the stage our panelists for today, Mr. Stephen Weiber, Bapak Zulfikar Zen, dan Ibu Madia Reni. Okay, so our main session will be led by our moderator for today, who is also already on the stage, Bapak Antarik.
Okay, thank you, Malara. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bincang-Bincang Pustakawan on Librarian Talks program. So today, our topic today is engaging in IFLA to strengthen the future of libraries. And for the topics, the subtopics of discussion today, first, we're going to discuss about library advocacy, best practices from countries around the world. Secondly, we will discuss the role of libraries in developing urban and also rural areas. And then thirdly, we will also talk about the role of libraries in the dissemination of information across communities in Indonesia. And here with us today are three outstanding panelists we have on the stage. Let me introduce each of them briefly. First, we have Stephen Weiber. He is the Director of Policy and Advocacy at International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions, or IFLA. Hi, Stephen. Secondly, we have Bapak Dr. Haji Zulfikar Zen, SSMA. He is the Vice Chairman of the Central Executive Board of Indonesian Library Association, or IBI. Halo Pak, selamat pagi. And then thirdly, we have Madia Reni Sulaiman. She is the Research Data Librarian at the National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN, Indonesia. Selamat pagi, Mbak. Ya. Okay. Yeah, today our discussion will be held in English. So if you participate on site or via Zoom, our discussion and presentations will be entirely in English. But you may also ask questions or maybe inputs in Indonesian, then I will translate to the panelists into English. But the main discussion will be in English. Yeah. Firstly, we will have presentations or opening remarks from the three panelists today, starting with Stephen, then Pak Zulfikar, and then Mbak Reni. Okay. Without further ado, let us go to the first opening remarks by Stephen Weber. Stephen, the time is yours.
So thank you very much. Is that working? I think so. So thank you very much. As said, I very much appreciate that you are ready to do this in English today. So I will speak slowly and I hope clearly, but please do put your hand up if my English is not clear enough or if I get excited and try to go too fast. I am conscious that the London accent is not the easiest version of English to understand. So thank you very much to Waro for the introduction, to Antariksa here, and to the library as a whole for organizing this. As said, I am Director of Policy and Advocacy at IFLA. And so I wanted to say just a few quite high-level things, and I will keep it short so that we have the maximum time for discussion later. And what I wanted to do was try and establish what IFLA is doing in three broad themes. So if we could move on to the next slide. The key areas that I want to look at, the functions of IFLA, but probably actually the functions of any library association, but in particular IFLA at the global level, is what we're doing around enhancing professional practice and the importance of that, what we're doing around building advocacy and the importance of that, and then what we're doing around trying to build capacity. And I think in all of these, this is just starting a conversation. I think what Waro said at the beginning, there is so much good work already happening. And I think it really needs to be a two-way conversation about how we bring Indonesia to the world and bring all these great models, but all the things that you're doing within these models. How do we bring that to the world? But also what works in terms of bringing IFLA to Indonesia more effectively as well. So here you've got the set of issues. So what is IFLA going through these things? So first of all, if I ask to go to the next slide, enhancing professional practice. Now, I think this is how most people, when they engage with IFLA, this is what you come across, because it's such an important thing to learn from each other. We are a profession. We are a community of practice. We're a group of people who are facing similar issues, the same issues all the time. We're all working to find solutions, working to innovate, to think. And so there's such a huge importance in providing that opportunity to come together, to look at what we're doing. And so we'll go on to the next slide. I think thank you. So how do we do this within IFLA? We have our committees. I think it's mentioned on this slide. In fact, we have about 60 of them looking at the issues facing different types of libraries, the different issues facing different types of service provision, the issues facing different types of services to different communities. We're looking at these issues around the world. We're looking to find ways of finding solutions. Now, if we could go to the next slide. I wanted to provide an example here of something that we've put out very recently. This is the Public Library Manifesto. This isn't a new document. The original date's from 1949, but the most recent came out just earlier this month. It was agreed by UNESCO earlier this month. Now, the point of this document, this is the public library field globally coming together and thinking, what are the services? What are the missions that define what we're doing? It was a fantastic process of drawing on experience, trying to come up with shared values, thinking about, well, what is the function of the library today? And because when you bring people together, you start to notice commonalities, you start to notice the things that bring us together, the principles, many of which I think are exactly what Waro has been talking about. How can we be proactive and not reactive? How do we go out to people when they don't come to us? How do we find new ways of sharing information? How do we become key actors in the digital world? What needs to change? These are really important opportunities to define, to give it a greater sense to what we're doing, to put what we're doing in context. The next area I wanted to talk about, and I might ask if we can go on to the next slide, is going to focus on our role around advocacy. Now, this is my day-to-day job. What I do is a lot of, it's trying to go out and trying to be the voice of libraries within international processes, but crucially also in building capacity at all levels to advocate. Now, why do we need advocacy? I'm sure you know this already. Libraries are funded by others. Our function is not to ask people for money for the services we provide in order to be able to be universal. We need to be able to ensure, to guarantee the support of those who fund us, of those who take decisions about what we're doing. And I think crucially, we're not powerless here. We have agency, we have a voice, we have a legitimacy that comes from our missions, that comes from all of the good that we do in society. We need to be able to stand up and talk with decision makers and convince them of why they need to invest in libraries, why they need to think about libraries, why they need to pass laws that favor libraries, that give us the infrastructure, the power, the possibilities to actually do what we need to do. An interesting angle, and I'm sorry, I'm going to spend more on this section than the others a little bit because it's my favorite. Part of this is also about making sure that everyone sees that libraries are important. A lot of the time, and I can speak about the countries I know best. I think it's really interesting in Indonesia that the National Library of Indonesia replies directly to the president. A lot of the time, libraries are seen as just a cultural thing or just an educational thing. Now, it's really important that actually information is a cross-cutting thing. Information is essential for health. Information is essential for employment. It's essential for innovation. It's essential for agriculture. It's vital across the board. And so a project that we have, something that we need to focus on is articulating, explaining, convincing decision makers in all areas of the importance of libraries, of why they need not just to see libraries as someone else's issue or just a cultural thing. They need to see libraries as really essential implementation partners in what they're doing. They need to bring in libraries at the beginning when they're trying to assess the problems that they're trying to solve, when they're trying to design, to develop the solutions to these problems. They need to have libraries in the room rather than just seeing them as something further down the road. And I think linked to this is the sense of how do we hook up? How do we link up with global agendas? I think, again, this is something that I notice, and it sounds like actually in Indonesia, you're already doing better on this. But a lot of the time, strategies are developed in isolation. For example, skills strategies. Libraries, we know that we are a core education institution. We know that we are part of the education infrastructure of any country, of any community. However, too often, the library field will develop its strategy for education and skills, and the relevant ministry will develop its strategy for education and skills, and the two don't cross over. There's not an effort to bring the two together, which is a shame, because actually if you invest in libraries, if you make libraries part of your planning at the political level, that can make a huge difference. And the example I wanted to give here is of work around cities. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm here in Indonesia, is that there is, as part of the G20 process, a meeting of mayors tomorrow, of mayors from major cities and G20 countries. And mayors often are the crucial decision makers for public libraries, for community libraries, but they too need to be convinced that we're not just a cultural institution, we're not just an education institution, we are a multi-purpose institution. We are there to achieve so many goals, we can make such a huge contribution. If I can go on to the next slide. Now, looking across these, both this developing professional capacity, professional practice, building that community, and advocating, both of these things require a strong infrastructure. We need strong associations, like the IPI. We need strong institutions, like the National Library of Indonesia. We need to be able to work together effectively, to have that capacity, to bring people together, to talk, to develop professional practice, to go out convincingly, to have people who will go and talk to the ministers, talk to the president, but also people who are active on the ground, because we have such a powerful legitimacy from having, and I noted down these figures, potentially 78,000 village libraries, 160,000 libraries across the country in Indonesia. That is a really powerful source of legitimacy. We are everywhere. A major company may have a big building in the capital. It isn't there in every single community. Now, in order to do this, I think this is an area where I'm really interested in having that conversation with you, because what is it that helps us to help you to build capacity? One of our recent innovations was to start a set of regional committees within IFLA to try and move from providing purely global solutions to thinking more about how we can work at the regional level, how we can provide a space, how we can share relevant information, how we can create relevant opportunities to build stronger, more sustainable library fields at that regional level. I think for me, there are some obvious ingredients of that. It is around advocacy. It is around building up evidence, stories of impact, as well I mentioned. A really crucial one is how do we bring up new voices? How do we create what in English would say a pipeline of talent to make sure that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time, we have some really great people who will be able to lead the field, who can take on my job, who can take on all of our jobs in 10, 15 years' time and do them well and make the library field even stronger than it is now. There's a lot of opportunity there, and I think I'm really keen to have that conversation, and I hope we'll have some of that when we're talking shortly. So just to close, if we can go on to the next slide, I wanted to highlight some initial ideas for opportunities for getting involved. Now, a really crucial one is that our elections are coming up. Now, as part of the elections, there are regional structures, and we already have, I'm not sure if she's here, but we have Labiba Zain from Yogyakarta is currently the Indonesian representative on our regional division committee. There will, of course, be opportunities there, but across IFLA's work, across those 60 plus volunteer groups, there are opportunities. And I think what's important, as long as you can get nominated by someone, then you can actually apply, you can stand in these elections. You don't have to have individually any particular status. So I'd really encourage you to think about those chances, think about those opportunities. Obviously, you already have a very strong member in the National Library of Indonesia. Of course, strongly encourage membership, because the more members you have, the more possibilities you have to nominate people. Secondly, if you keep an eye on our mailing list, our main mailing list, there are often calls for people who are co-opted, because again, something that we've tried to change in the last couple of years is really improve the diversity, to make sure that our committees are as global as our organization is. And so there are often calls out for people who are from the Asia-Oceania region in order to get involved. And I think, again, as what I said, there's so much going on. No, you're a G20 country, you're huge. Geographically, population-wise, you are a really big country. There is such a wealth of experience, and you are organized. There's such a wealth of experience to share. Think about going for these roles. Think about getting involved. And it's not just about being able to turn up to the conference. More and more, and I think this has been a really powerful lesson from the pandemic, you don't physically need to be in the room to be metaphorically in the room. I don't know, we are doing so much more digitally now. We're meeting so much more often online. You don't need to have to come to the conference every year, although of course we do encourage it. It's a great experience. Other things, look at our events pages, join webinars, get involved. And of course, as I said earlier, do think about membership, and I'm happy to share more information. I'm happy to share links. I do have some stickers, I think, with links on them, which I will share out at the end. So if we can look at the next slide quickly, what I will do, I'll ask this slide to go up so that you can take photos. These are the benefits of membership. Strongly encourage you to think about membership. As said, the more members we have from Indonesia, the more possibilities you have to nominate people for committees, the more possibilities you have to join our volunteer groups to really get involved in things. So I think I'm going to stop there. I think I've had my allocated time, but I'm looking forward to chatting at the end. As said, these were very high level ideas. I think the real value will come out from that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for your opening remarks. Jadi saya izin membacakan beberapa poin dalam bahasa Indonesia yang tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Stephen. Yang pertama, tadi beliau menyebutkan bahwa pustakawan sebagai profesional, kita tidak hanya menunggu dari orang datang ke kita, tapi kita juga mendatangi komunitas. Kemudian beliau juga menyampaikan soal advokasi perpustakaan, bahwa beliau menggarisbawahi bahwa perpustakaan itu bukan berarti tidak punya kuasa, tidak punya power, karena kita punya misi dalam dunia perpustakaan. Kemudian beliau juga menyampaikan bahwa perpustakaan sebagai lembaga informasi itu adalah esensial, tidak hanya untuk pendidikan dan untuk kebudayaan, tapi juga berbagai macam sektor, seperti tadi beliau menyebutkan ada pertanian, kesehatan, itu semua membutuhkan informasi yang tentunya perpustakaan punya kompetensi untuk itu. Kemudian selanjutnya beliau menyebutkan tentang perpustakaan ini sebaiknya termasuk menjadi bagian dari agenda politik, karena tadi kita punya misi tadi bahwa artinya kita meyakinkan oleh para stakeholder, para pemangku kepentingan, terutama yang memberikan pendanaan kepada perpustakaan, termasuk diantaranya para wali kota. Tadi beliau menyebutkan perlu dilibatkan, oleh karenanya kita pada tanggal 29 dan terutama 30 besok itu akan ada pertemuan dengan para mayor dari U20 di sini gitu. Nah, kemudian perpustakaan sesuai yang tadi yang beliau sebutkan adalah organisasi yang tidak hanya terbatas tapi multipurpose, punya berbagai macam fungsi yang bisa dieksplorasi lebih lanjut. Dan di akhir beliau mengajak kita semua komunitas pustakawan dan informasi di Indonesia untuk bergabung dengan kegiatan-kegiatan yang dilaksanakan IFLA. Contohnya tadi beliau menyebutkan ada election atau pemilihan di IFLA. Kemudian ada pendaftaran untuk co-op members dan mentor, tadi kalau saya tidak salah, dan sebagainya. Itu kira-kira inti dari yang disampaikan oleh Stephen. Thank you once again, Stephen. And next, we are going to hear the opening remarks from Bapak Dr. Zulfikar Zain from the Indonesian Library Association as the Vice Chairman of the Indonesian Library Association. The time is yours, Pak.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, friends. whether you are in this building or through Zooms. So this morning, we have a special guest that's from IFLA. So we already know that they explain about IFLA. So I'm the Vice President, the Vice Chairman of the Library Association. I would like to introduce a bit about the association. Indonesian Library Association that we call IPI was established in 1973. That's the 7th of July. The end of the ILA, IPI, we call it ILA, there are 4 to develop the professional Indonesian library association. Then to develop library information science, and also devote and practice the resources that we have and the experiences of our librarians to the nation and to the state. And then to promote and practice, provide the protection to our member or profession, to the members. And then to achieve that aims, some programs that we already have. First, next, okay, holdings and participating in the various scientific activities, especially in the library information science. And then again, strive and for ELR participation in the implementation of government programs such as what we from National Library, and then publish the library materials, journals or books or others publications, and also fostering communication forms between librarians in our country and also in the region and also in international, and participates in the regional and international activities. And then, as we know, that in Indonesia there are 2 kinds of library staff. There are 2. First, the librarians who has the library science backgrounds through training or formal educations. The second one, the technical staff who support the librarian in the library. To be a librarian in Indonesia, there are 4 kinds of requirements. First, the minimum graduation from LAS, what we call it Diploma 2, at least. The second one, they get the training around 480 hours trainings. At least they come from the Diploma 3 and already work in the library. And the third one is they already attended the CPTA, what we call it. Their background is graduation, and they get the training around 620 hours training. And then last 2 years, 18 and 19, there is a chance for our people who work in the library, what we call it in passing. So who work in the library already 2 years, they can in passing to be a librarian. That's the condition of our librarian in Indonesia. So as Ibu Waro said, that we are the big country and we also have a lot of the libraries. But unfortunately, 80% are school libraries. And then 25% is public libraries. And we also academic libraries around 6.29%. And then special library 2.52%. Unfortunately, through the resource from National Library, that's only 11.4% accredited out of 164 libraries in Indonesia. So only around 10% that's accredited only. And then in the library, where we have librarians, there are around 40,000 librarians. Exactly 40,194. That's resource sources 2 years ago, the National Library. And then the background library association, no, library science graduated from library science only 2.5%. And then functional around 30%. That who already they get the functional as a civil servant, so they get the what you call it, professional fee from national. And then uncertified, that's a lot of them, around 7.59 uncertified librarians. So you can imagine how difficult to achieve the goal and the purpose of service. So, and then around 90% certified librarians. So we have 4. And then I would like to say that in order to work a professional, last year we already launched what we call it Asta Etika. Asta Etika for our code of conducts. There are 8 ethics that our librarian have to follow in order to serve the people. First, carry out of tasks in accordance with user expectation, if possible more. Then increase competency, excellency as high as possible. The third, differentiate person view with professional duties. The fourth, guarantee that the activities and the decision are based on the professionalism. And the fifth, uphold individuals' rights to information and provide unrestricted access. And the sixth, protect the privacy rights of users and are not responsible for the use of information. Sorry. The 7, recognize and respect to the intellectual property rights. And the last one, establish cooperation and mutual respect among colleagues. That's what we call it in Bahasa Asta Etika. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give more information about our condition, but this I think especially for the Stephen, yeah. So that's why we try to speak in Bahasa English, so only for you, but our audience mainly in Indonesia. Librarian and library organization. We have around 80 organizations. Besides IFLA, we also have another organization. The organization consists of 2. That's organization of librarians, of organization of the libraries. So there are 18 association in our country. And about the library education in Indonesia, we do glad that we already have around 35 high university or academy already offer the library education, library information science. That since in 1975, the only one that we have that where I come from University of Indonesia. And then in 80s, 90s, and now we already have a lot of university over the library science and information science, undergraduate programs, diploma program, and postgraduate program. Unfortunately, we don't have the doctor program yet. especially from the Library Information Science. We already have VROTO program, but not from the Department of Library Science. For me, example, I'm not a graduated doctor from library science, but from the education. And then I would like to say that's the nature of our profession. The main task of the librarian. There are three. First, we call it, we are information manager. The second, we are the guardian of knowledge. The third, we care to the poor. That's the core business of librarian, I think. Information manager. Why we call it we are information? The people come to the library, they're not looking for the books, not the material, but the information. The kind of information, it depends on their background. If they are ordinary people, there are students, it depends. So that's why the librarian must know who their users. Information in the library is contained in various containers. Can be in the books. Nowadays, there are printed material, recorded material, digital materials. So all of that's kind of publication is available in our library. And also information is a basic human rights that guaranteed in our institution, Undang-Undang Dasar 45, mendapatkan informasi that's part of the human rights. Also declare in the UN declarations and human rights act in our country. And then the second one, our function is the guardian of knowledge. Librarians record, collect, store, preserve, and disseminate the information. I do proud that there is no other profession who are doing that things. We know that we have what we call it bibliography national, national bibliography. That's part of the bibliography control. Every country have their own national library. We collect, we publish what the publication in our country. And the second one, we also have what we call it Deposit Act. Based on the Deposit Act number 13, 2018, every publisher, every writer, they have to submit at least 3 publications to the National Library 2, and 1 is to the Provincial Library. So I think that's why we say that we are the guardian of knowledge. Whether in British Library, whether in Library of Congress, whether in National Library, that's doing by the librarian, not the publishers, not the writer, not the bookstore. So we have to proud with our profession. The third, that I'll always say to everywhere, to everyone, to every librarian, the librarian serve the people who poor. They are unable to buy. They are unable to buy. I always say that the rich people go to the bookstore, but the poor people go to the library. Why? Because wherever the library in the world for lending, there is no any item cannot be lent in the library. But the distance of lending can be only daily, weekly, or only one day, only that's. So that's why I always say we need the library. We have to care. And now, based on the latest information that we get from BPS, 10% of our people, they are poor. Around 26,000, 26 million, not thousand. And they are living in the villages. and the isolated area, in the isolated islands. So who's going to serve them? That we are, as the Weber said, that's we have to serve them. Nowadays, there is no bookstore in the province. There is no bookstore in kabupaten. Tidak ada toko buku lagi di provinsi dan kabupaten. Even you have a lot of money, you cannot buy. You have to go to Jakarta. Why? Because, yeah, as you know, that's the impact of the digital publications. So some bookstore that we know, like Gunung Agung, you know, they're reaching to the money changer on the sport facilities. Then I would like to say that's the impact. I think it is happened everywhere in the country. The impacts of the ITC, information, technology, and communication. We have three kinds of libraries. That's also happened in Indonesia. First, we have conventional libraries. We still keep the printed materials. I can say that in the province, in the kabupaten, district, we still mainly our collection in the printed materials. The second one, digital libraries. Not so many libraries in Indonesia. I can say some of university libraries, academic libraries, or special libraries that do have the digital library. And the third, what we call hybrid library. Hybrids mix between printed and digital. And then we try, such as National Library, we mix. We National Library have around 5,000 printed material, manuscript, you know. What we introduce, the digital collection as well. So, before ending this information or speech, I would like to say, I'm glad to see everywhere in the country, G20, recover together. No, the next plate, recover together and recover stronger. Okay. At the present and in the future, I think I believe it, you know. There is none of one library able to have and to buy all the publications. And no one library is able to serve their user to fulfill their needs instantly, no? Wherever you are. No, there is no librarian. Even you are from the rich country, you will not buy. And sometimes it's not necessary. So that's why I think cooperation, coordination, synergitas, networking, it's a must. And then I would like to say, Steve, cooperation and not working are not only to avoid the weaknesses. What we have to think, they share the strength that you have. Sometimes cooperation between poor and poor, rich and rich, okay. But rich and poor, sometimes it doesn't work. So through the IFLA, I can say, you have to help us, you know. 26 million still. We need books, especially for the rural area, for the isolated area. The best library are not depend on the collection they have, but depend on the access to other database, possibly. And the last, to end it my speech, I would like to say thank you very much. Wassalam. And I would like to say this one. Without libraries, we have no the past and no the future. Tanpa perpustakaan, kita tidak akan punya masa lalu dan masa yang akan datang. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Zulfikar, for your presentation. So as with the previous speaker, Stephen, I will also read the summary in Indonesian. Jadi tadi Pak Zulfikar sudah menyampaikan tentang peranan Ikatan Pustakawan Indonesia, kemudian menyoroti juga mengenai akreditasi perpustakaan yang perlu ditingkatkan jumlahnya karena masih terbatas yang diakreditasi, demikian juga untuk sertifikasi tenaga pustakawan. Tadi beliau juga menyebutkan Asta Etika Pustakawan, yaitu kode etik yang ditetapkan oleh IPI sebagai panduan untuk semua pustakawan di Indonesia. Dan tadi beliau mengetengahkan ada 3 fungsi, 3 peranan dari pustakawan, yaitu sebagai manajer informasi atau information manager, kemudian sebagai penjaga gitu ya Pak, penjaga pengetahuan. Dan yang tidak kalah pentingnya yang ketiga adalah untuk menolong atau peduli dengan orang-orang miskin, dengan kaum yang tidak berpunya. Dan beliau menyebutkan juga dalam momen G20 ini kita ya. Halo. Di dalam momen G20 ini kita perlu meningkatkan sinergi dan kooperasi dan kerjasama. Dan atas kekuatan-kekuatan yang kita sudah mungkin Pak. Ya. Once again, thank you for your opening remarks. And then we will come to the third remark by Mbak Matireni Sulaiman from the time is yours.
Okay, I think my voice is clear. Thank you so much, Mr. Angkasa Tariksa. And good morning, everyone. The Honorable, our Head of National Libraries of Indonesia, Mr. Sharif Bando, and our main Secretary of National Library of Indonesia, Mrs. Woro Titi Haryanti, our main expert of librarian, and our speaker, Pak Zulfikar Zain, Pak Zul, my lecturer that when I was in University of Indonesia, and our speaker, also my colleague, Stephen Weiber, who is from IFLA headquarters. And good morning, everyone, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to thank you so much for having me here. And I also want to give thanks to BRIN Indonesia, Goethe Institute, and IFLA that supported me to attend IFLA Week 2022 in Dublin last month. I think we can start the slide sharing now. And today we also know that we have Stephen here, who is my colleague, who has helped me and supervised me with Gosia and Oya from Goethe Institute London and Ireland in the project of Emerging International Voices since 2020. And it's been 2 years now, and it's quite a long time ago, but I learned so much from the project and the program, and I'm very happy to have you here, Stephen. Thank you. Today I will speak both Bahasa Indonesia mixed together with English, so please bear with me. We can go back to the screen. Can go to, I just want to share my takeaways when I attend IFLA Week, and I personally hope it can be implemented in Indonesia, that if not, it can be developed or modified. as long as we do share these ideas as a collective work to develop our librarianship. But let me bring you first to the what is IFLA Week, especially the one that was held last month. So this is the 87th World Library and Information Congress, and it's finally held in person after 2.5 years of the pandemic. And the tagline is inspire, engage, enable, and connect. These are very powerful words that can inspire us to be more resilient in facing the pandemic situations when we need to provide our best services to our stakeholders and users. We do face adversity, hardship, uncertainty, but we face it with courage, resilience, and we do know that we grow stronger together. Next slide, please. And after attending the event, I discovered there are 4 points that we need to pay attention to. As previously stated, these highlights are linked to those 4 words. And as you can see too, some products were resulted from the event are underlined on the slide. But just this disclaimer, because there are so many interesting events or sessions that was held in IFLA Week 2022, and it was held in similar timelines. So actually my main interest is more into open science and data management. So I can only attend those sessions. But aside from that, majority of these materials that I present today can be accessed through IFLA repository and maybe some personal notes that I did. Well, let's discuss the first one, inspire. Next slide, please. But before we get there, I was reminded of how much of our professions as librarians and information professionals rely on this framework. So this framework just came up as I was going through the programs at the event, and it makes sense because we do manage data, information, and also knowledge. But it's only intermezzo, so we can just go to the next slide. First point about inspire. One point that was very inspiring is the new and innovative services by librarians around the world. They share and discuss new inspiring projects and services that engage, enable, and connect libraries and citizens. From innovative reference services during COVID by Quebec Library, and then there is interinstitutional cooperation model provided by Montenegro Library, and there is in Korea, they provide research services through data, cooperations, and sharing, and openness. And also in Ghana, they implement geographic information system for collection tracking. But there was one that piqued my interest. It is the session titled Read, Play, Learn, but with additional notes safely. Their new approach to providing services to children and youth. They carry out some initiatives that we can see on the slide in the form of picture books and also Saver Internet Day programs. And the other thing is the infographic of library guidelines for children age 0 to 18. We can see from this point, those initiatives always prioritize their users. I realize this is a broad or general statement, but this serves as a reminder for us to always prioritize our stakeholders and also users when we want to launch new initiatives. We can go to the next slide, please. Engage. So through this approach, I discovered that IFLA creates a new guideline to update our list curriculum Some of you might have already read it. And the goal of this guideline is to involve the library and information science professionals, academics, educators, stakeholders, associations in its applications to local contexts. So we can see from this guideline that we need an understanding of support infrastructure to implement them in LIST curriculum. And especially in the Indonesian context, when our LIST program are basically under various types of department and faculties. Next slide, please. One topic that was covered in Engage category, Okay, so here we can see that there is a guideline that in figures, there is a list foundational knowledge areas, FKAs, that mention there is an 8-part of knowledge that we need to cover in our curriculum. So it establishes the foundation for library and information professionals to develop additional competencies and also design their specialty area in their curriculum. Furthermore, these FKAs enable our LIST professional to articulate how their advanced learning builds on these foundations in response to the needs and requirements in the local, regional, and also international context. Next slide, please. And this one that I want to mention before about AI. So this is still a subject of debate, but it was covered in IFLA, and these AI technologies are increasingly being used in our many aspects of library operations, including public and reference services, automated classifications. There was a customer service in chatbots and also discovery systems. And AI is also being integrated into library products such as discovery and also research platforms by some vendors. Of course, the role of and impact of AI present both its opportunities and also challenges. And IT plays an important role in its development and its applications in our libraries, but its application can have a significant impact and also might be some consequences like ethics, lack of transparency, and also unconscious bias concerns in libraries. We can conclude from this that infrastructure was an important factor to consider in our operations and service delivery, particularly in Indonesia, when we do have a very diverse users, best ranging from baby boomers to also millennials. And we want to make them to have their engagement right. But we need to consider and put some thought about how we can incorporate ethical consideration when we want to implement this new technology. We can continue to the next slide, which will mention the important point of enabling our stakeholders. Next slide, please. For those of you who have already read and maybe researched this document extensively, so IFLA UNESCO provide Public Library Manifesto 2022 that re-examines the role of public library. This expanding on of the previous version that better reflect the libraries, how libraries can serve their communities today. Some significant additions can be seen. First, they mention about the sustainable development and also libraries in knowledge societies. And this manifesto maintains that libraries help to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And it connects a key aspect of libraries' missions to the creation of more equitable, human, and sustainable societies. Of course, people access to and use of information has evolved. This revised manifesto emphasized the public library's role in enabling knowledge societies, and it has included a great emphasis on remote and digital access to information and materials, as well as discussion of legal issues concerning access in the digital era. It also emphasized the importance of having access to the competency and connectivity needed to bridge the digital divide. On the next slide, we can see the evolving role or mission of the public libraries today. And on the table, you can see that there are some updated versions. They not only mention about stimulating imagination and creativity, but also their curiosity and empathy, and not only strengthening the reading habits since young age, but also from birth to adulthood. And on the right side, at the bottom of the table, you can see that there is additional skills that need to be developed, like reading and writing skills, and also media, information, and digital literacy skills. Moving on to the next slide, there was a very interesting sessions about the talk of how we can implement transformative agreements in our libraries. So I'm sorry if it's the color is too bright, but here I want to highlight what the transformative agreements entails. It is regarded as an umbrella term and describe the agreements reached between institutions and publishers. So who are these institutions? It consists of libraries and also national and regional consortia. And what did they agree on? It is a model for repurposing subscription expenditure to support open access. Jadi yang dimaksud di sini adalah pengalihan dana atau anggaran dari pembiayaan langganan yang biasanya umumnya kita ketahui bersama bahwa itu mengambil anggaran yang cukup besar. Dan anggaran tersebut dialihkan kepada dukungan akan akses terbuka, di mana di sini di-highlight juga opsinya setidaknya cost netral gitu. Jadi disesuaikan dengan kesepakatan bersama antara komunitas ilmiah dan juga penerbit. On the next slide, we can have more details about this. Jadi di sini perpustakaan dapat menjadi penggerak transformasi tersebut as the transformation driver. Hal yang bisa kita lakukan, tentu pertama kita bisa menyatakan komitmen kita akan paradigma terbuka, kemudian kita juga bisa melakukannya misalnya dengan mendukung penerbitan yang dengan akses terbuka, tentu ada terjadi pula transparansi anggaran, dan juga bisa dengan melakukan investasi terhadap akses terbuka dibandingkan melalui paywalls. Dan tentu kata investasi ini sifatnya akan jangka panjang ya, karena dalam hal ini demi keberlangsungan akses terhadap pengetahuan kita. Dan tentu transisi ini perlu berkelanjutan dan sifatnya optimal. Salah satu contoh negosiasi yang disampaikan saat sesi di IFLA itu ada rekan kita dari Saudi Arabia dan juga Jerman yang menyampaikan best practice mereka melakukan negosiasi ke negaranya. Dan untuk dokumennya rekan-rekan bisa ekspor juga di repository IFLA yang disediakan di link di slide sebelumnya. Okay, so next slide please. Based on IFLA strategic plan, we believe that people, communities, and organizations need universal and equitable access. So, yang paling umum kita ketahui memang kata equality atau kesetaraan gitu. But it will be different when we talk about equity. seperti yang tertera di gambar, gimana sih kita bisa menerapkan equity ini pada inovasi layanan serta kepustakawanan kita. Di mana dengan beragamnya suku, bangsa, budaya di Indonesia, tentu equity to access seperti ini akan sangat unik dan juga berbeda-beda. Oleh karena itu, mari kita jadikan keberagaman ini sebagai pegangan kita untuk bisa misalnya melakukan brainstorming gitu ya. Gimana sih kita misalnya mengentas digital divide antar provinsi atau misalnya dengan tentu dengan penanganan yang berbeda sesuai karakteristik dari kekayaan atau tradisi lokal di regional tersebut. Next slide, please. And also there was some example of sessions that highlights this transformative national and international impacts of librarians engaging in the library publishings that support this IFLA strategic plan and also support the UN SDGs. They talk about their activities in the issue of climate change and also green library project. Jadi di sini perpustakaan bisa menjadi suatu entitas yang punya power atau kekuatannya tersendiri gitu untuk menyampaikan aspirasi publik. Di mana di sini tentu perpustakaan nggak bisa berjalan sendiri karena kita perlu melakukan tadi ya advokasi, negosiasi, dan juga berpartnership or kerjasama. And some session delivered on this category connect, mostly encouraging libraries to deliver their mission by having a better governance and then have a sustainable development and also citizenship education. Seperti ada di sesi Connect to Deliver, lalu bagaimana pustakawan di akademis itu bisa menjaga kekayaan budayanya, dan juga bagaimana kita bisa memastikan bahwa kebebasan kita untuk beropini dan berekspresi itu bisa disampaikan. Pembahasannya juga membahas mengenai censorship, misinformation, information pollution, dan lainnya. Next slide, please. And if I may share with you what my personal takeaway from the event is, if I can choose one word, it is the resilience. Yang artinya kemampuan yang ada dalam diri individu untuk kembali pulih dari suatu keadaan yang menekan dan mampu beradaptasi dan bertahan dari kondisi tersebut. So at the event, IFLA will also discuss how the war in Ukraine affects libraries. And we have also very sad past. From the poster, we can see how the wartime in Bosnia and Herzegovina that was happened in 1992 to 1995 affected libraries, not only the building, collections, but their people afterward. And it is a very touching story. And when we see how we are in the midst of pandemic now, we need to consider how can we better protect our most valuable assets, that is our knowledge. On the next slide, we can see also how this brilliant poster gets to be the best poster of IFLA Week 2022. To the next slide, please. And I'm very happy for them. As one of the winners, Ila is also my colleague who is part of the Emerging International Voices by Goethe Institute and IFLA. And on my slide, please. I would like also to requote Mary Robinson, who is a former president of Ireland, who attended the IFLA Week event. She cited Nelson Mandela, who said, "It always seems impossible until it is done." I hope this quote serves as a reminder for us to always to stick together and work together to have a better librarianship and strengthen our librarianship for the future. Thank you so much, and I will give back the floor to Mr. Antariksa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mbak Materiani Sulaiman, for the presentation. Jadi tadi walaupun sudah ada bahasa Indonesianya ya tadi ya, sudah 2 bahasa. Saya izin ini lagi ya, menyampaikan kembali ada beberapa. Tadi beliau menyampaikan sesuai dengan strategi IFLA tadi yang ada 4 itu ya. Ada inspire atau untuk menginspirasi. Jadi dengan tadi mencontohkan layanan-layanan baru yang inovasi-inovasi baru terkait layanan. Kemudian kita juga perlu memprioritaskan para pengguna atau para pemustaka kita dalam layanan. Kemudian yang kedua adalah engage atau terlibat. Tadi yang dicontohkan oleh beliau mengenai terbitan IFLA ya, mengenai guidelines to LIS education atau panduan mengenai pendidikan perpustakaan dan informasi. Yang tadi dicontohkan beberapa, nanti mungkin bisa diunduh ya, ada ya di repositorinya IFLA ya. Kemudian yang ketiga adalah enable atau memungkinkan terkait dengan Sustainable Development Goals atau SDG. Kemudian tadi beliau juga bicara bagaimana kita menjembatani digital divide atau apa bahasa Indonesianya, gap ya, atau jurang digital antara yang bisa mengakses katakanlah di sini teknologi digital, terutama internet, dengan yang tidak bisa. Gitu. Kemudian ada tadi disebutkan juga mengenai bagaimana peranan perpustakaan umum itu terus-menerus berevolusi gitu ya dengan perkembangan terkini, termasuk di dalamnya tadi sempat disebutkan mengenai bagaimana kita sebagai perpustakaan itu bisa meninjau kembali mengenai kebijakan pengembangan koleksi terkait dengan akses berlangganan ke penerbit luar negeri, di mana kita bisa memfokuskan, bisa menggeser fokus kita ke dalam terbitan-terbitan yang sifatnya open access atau akses terbuka, sehingga akan mengubah sisi anggaran dan membuka ruang anggaran gitu mungkin ya. Dan yang keempat, tadi ada aspek connect atau berkoneksi atau berjejaring gitu ya, yang di situ kita memperluas akses kepada masyarakat, kemudian memastikan bahwa akses ini tidak hanya equal, tapi ada equity di situ. Jadi tidak hanya apa ya, tidak hanya istilahnya apa bahasa Indonesianya, tidak hanya sama rata, tapi kita juga memperhatikan kebutuhan dari masing-masing segmen user atau pemustaka kita. Jadi tidak hanya memberikan sama rata, tapi kita juga melihat apakah ada di antara mereka yang mungkin disadvantage atau memiliki apa tadi ya, memiliki kita perlu memberikan support lebih gitu. Itu yang tadi sempat disebutkan oleh beliau. Dan tadi beliau menutup salah satunya dengan kata kunci beliau yaitu resilience atau bahasa Indonesianya apa ya, resilience ya, kebertahanan gitu ya. Intinya kita walaupun diterpa kesulitan, terutama dalam konteks COVID-19, kita tetap bisa melaksanakan pelayanan perpustakaan sehingga perpustakaan tetap terus dibutuhkan oleh masyarakat. Kira-kira begitu. Mungkin ada yang ditambahkan? Cukup ya? Okay, so now we come to the discussion session. And we will open the floor to the audience. Kita akan buka sesi pertanyaan untuk para hadirin, baik yang datang di tempat langsung maupun yang tergabung di Zoom ataupun di YouTube. Jadi silakan menyiapkan pertanyaannya, tapi sebelumnya saya dulu yang tanya. So I will ask questions for one question for each panelist. Starting with with Stephen. So, in your presentation, you have mentioned several ways in which advocacy can be done. Can you give us in the Indonesian audience one example of what kind of advocacy program that can be imitated in Indonesia. One example or one idea that you think is relevant to be implemented in Indonesia. Jadi mungkin gagasan apa yang sekiranya dari negara lain itu apa yang kira-kira bisa diterapkan di Indonesia. So, Stephen.
That's working now. That's a good. That is a good question. I suppose. I'm trying to think. I think we've talked a little bit about the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think that one good example can perhaps come from. I'm going to use the example of Latvia. It's a small country in the east of Europe, so a little bit different to Indonesia, obviously. But that's been interesting in a number of ways. I think they focus on the Sustainable Development Goals as a theme, and they've done what I mentioned around placing libraries within a broader agenda. So rather than leading by saying support libraries, they have led by saying this is an important agenda to which we can contribute. It's a more effective way often of engaging decision makers. Start with what's interesting to the decision maker and then work backwards from there to what the library can contribute. It's been really interesting because they've worked very effectively, for example, with museums. It's not been a pure library focused thing. They've worked with others. They've used what's been interesting also the different levels, that not just the high profile elements, so the National Museum and the National Library, which the National Library of Latvia is a little bit like the National Library here. You have an incredibly prominent place. It is a signature building that people recognize in a signature part of town, but then they've worked at all levels. So they've also managed to mobilize people in each of the provinces. So all of the local mayors and all of the governors of individual provinces also hear about libraries. So it's been interesting in that it's a combination of different levels. It's a combination of different types of organizations, including different partners, which is interesting, and it fits into a global agenda. I suppose the other thing I'll just say, which is an argument that we try and make a lot, and I'm not sure even if it's an issue here. In a lot of countries, when we hear the word advocacy, people think lobbying. And lobbying in a lot of languages is quite a dirty word. Now, I've lived in France, any English word is dirty, but lobbying is seen as being quite a dirty, grubby thing. It's all about sort of people in flash cars and so on. Actually, advocacy is a whole spectrum of activities. It is a wide range of activities. So of course you need the people who feel comfortable to go and talk to the minister or talk to the director general or talk to the members of parliament and get to know them, build up a strong personal relationship, build up a relationship of confidence. But then you need so many other skills. We need to be able to gather evidence. We need to be able to talk to users. We need to be able to write effectively. We need to be able to follow what's going on. And so actually it really is a team effort. And I think that's again what worked in Latvia, that you had a few people who did follow the policy, but also so many others who contributed through this, through giving a great example, through sharing examples, through writing well, through communicating well. So I think that's also an element of a successful advocacy campaign. It's a team project. It's a range of competencies that are required. It's something that everyone can get involved in.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Jadi tadi beliau menyampaikan mengenai bahwa advokasi itu banyak aspeknya. Tidak hanya kita berbicara atau istilahnya tadi lobbying gitu ya, tapi juga bagaimana kita bisa mengumpulkan, menyampaikan hal yang penting yang sekiranya perlu dilakukan untuk mengembangkan perpustakaan. Bagaimana kita berkomunikasi dengan masyarakat, Bagaimana kita bisa mengetengahkan suatu agenda yang itu memang akan meyakinkan masyarakat bahwa ini memang penting. Kira-kira mungkin begitu. Okay. Then I would like to ask the second question to Pak Zulfikar. Pak, in your opinion, for ordinary librarians like me, what can I do to support the mission of libraries, both individually or maybe in organization, especially in the framework of IPI. Jadi bagaimana cara kita sebagai, misalnya saya sebagai seorang ya pustakawan pada umumnya gitu ya, bagaimana kita bisa turut berperan untuk memajukan perpustakaan baik secara individu maupun dalam kelompok atau mungkin dalam IPI itu seperti apa, Pak?
Thank you, Antariksa. So, based on our experience, I work in the library science around 40 years already. So that's I come to the end of the conclusions. We have to be proud with our profession. That's the first one. Even you are come from the different background, can be from English department, administrations, or whatever it is, but now you are a librarian. So you know already, the librarian, there are 3 main functions. We are information manager. People come to the library, they are looking for the information, not looking for the books. What is information? This depends on them. In the rural area, they need the practical books, simple books. If possible, the local language. Not necessarily the thick books in English and whatever. Sometimes we believe whenever we have the books, the people will come to the library. No, it depends on their needs. They come to the library because their needs. If you cannot fulfill the needs, don't think that they will come again. Say goodbye, librarian. That's the first one. We have to think that you are information. So you have to know who are they, what they need. If you are in the school library, you know that student, they can be high school, senior high school, or elementary school. They have to know the curriculum. The second one, as I said, we are the guardian of knowledge. I come to that conclusion because I don't believe the publisher. They keep the printed material as long as possible. No, that's only National Library and Provincial Library. That's why we have what we call Deposit Act. Every publisher, every writer, that's compulsory to send to the library at least 3 copies. 2 for the National Library. And who's going to use that? Our next generation. Not now. That's not the publisher, not the author, not the bookstore. And the third one, the rich people go to the bookstore. They can buy. They can access. They have a lot of facilities to access the information. But how about the poor people? The people who's living in the village? Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, pertanyaan antariksa ini, namanya antariksa ini. Ini memang pertanyaan yang harus, bagaimana kita, untuk yang baru-baru jadi pustakawan, pertama yakinkanlah bahwa Anda, mungkin kalau masuk surga orang yang pertama kali. Pertama peduli ke orang miskin. Ada surat, surat apa tuh? Ta'amul miskin itu, memberi makan orang miskin. Ara'aital ladzi yukadzibu biddin fazalikal ladzi yad'ul yatim wala yahuddu ala ta'amil miskin. Ta'am in this case is not only food, it's also information. And we are the guardian of knowledge. Garda yang menjaga pengetahuan. We have the national bibliography. We publish, no, it's weekly or monthly, I don't know. Every country they have national library. we have the bibliographic control. And the first one, we are information manager. Where we are, we have to know that our function. Even you are in the library, the academic library, public library, or school library, you have to know their user, their needs. They come to the library because they need. What they need? The information they need. You have to fulfill. That's why sometimes we cannot fulfill the needs. So we need the other librarians. So that's why the association, the cooperation, and the networking we need. And I can say that the function of the association, such as IFLA, CONSAL, ELA, likes a glue, likes a bridge. Whenever I need something, I think sometimes whenever we are a member of the IFLA, I can say today, we know that Stephen, whenever I need something, I can call him, and then he stay in Utrecht. Nowadays, no problem. Stephen, please you help me this book, dissertation for my professor, for my students. You can help. So that's why we need the organization. In Indonesia, we have what we call it IPI. Ya, kita di Indonesia punya IPI. Dengan Anda menjadi anggota IPI, Anda berada dengan pustakawan se-Indonesia dari Sabang sampai Merauke. Kalau ada kesulitan, kita bersama. Together we can solve the problem. Solve together and then stronger. Solve, recover together and recover stronger. It's mean the association like IFLA, ELA, and also CONSAL, in the future, they have to more active, more to cooperate among them. Yeah. And then in some case, we can help them. For example, me, myself, as a lecturer, I always ask my student to have the card from National Library. If they not have the card from National Library, I will not, saya akan periksa ujiannya. So this one I have to push, my student to go to this library. Yeah. So by member of the association, you have a lot of friends. The Minangkabau people say, duduk bersama itu berlampang-lampang, duduk sendirian sempit. That's almost oppositely. Whenever you sit together, it's not so loosely. Whenever you sit alone, you cannot solve the problem. So sitting with the IFLA, we're also member of the CONSAL, and then member at the IPI. And then Stephen, I would say to you, to be a member of ELA, they have to pay 10,000 a month. So 10,000 is less than $1 US, right? $1 US, 15. This a month. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. What we do, it's different with you. IFLA, you have to pay the IFLA membership. But IPI, I always say to my friend, we don't care with the fee. As long as they attend our meeting, our national conference, workshop, that's okay. So through that activities, we can serve our member. Jadi kesimpulannya, meskipun anggota IPI, mungkin yang hadir mungkin di ruangan, wajib membayar 10.000 sebulan, tapi selama ini memang belum jalan. Tapi kita tidak pernah mengatakan kalau tidak bayar tidak sah gitu. Sepanjang Anda nanti menjadi anggota, aktif dalam kegiatan IPI, baik yang dilakukan oleh nasional maupun oleh provinsi, apalagi sekarang di kabupaten, ya, dari kegiatan itulah kita membiayai organisasi kita. So friend, that's event that we finance the organization. Jadi kepada teman-teman sekalian, melalui mimbar ini saya undang juga, insya Allah tanggal 1 November sampai 4 November kita akan punya Kongres Ikatan Pustakawan yang ke-15. Silakan datang berduyun-duyun, rencananya akan diadakan di Surabaya. Jadi pada teman-teman yang hadir atau yang tidak hadir di ruangan ini, tanggal 1 sampai 4 November itu akan ada kongres kita di Surabaya. Do come. And Steve, next, the 1st of November and to the 4th, we will have the national conference in Surabaya. Is it possible to come to Surabaya again? And then Bu Oro, please invite Stephen. And then, yeah, Surabaya is Java. Okay, that's Antariksa, your question. And then sometime I have the advertisement for our council, because today this also our librarian from the PPIPI also hadir, and then Pak Robinson, and unfortunately the president unable to come. Sorry, Stephen, because something happened to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuker. Ya, sedikit saya restate ya Pak kalau boleh. Ya, tadi beliau mengatakan pertama kali bagaimana sih sikap kita sebagai pustakawan untuk memajukan perpustakaan. Pertama kita harus bangga dengan profesi kita, gitu Pak ya. Bahwa kita memang punya peranan yang penting. Tadi sudah 3 yang disebutkan Pak Zulfikar. Tadi salah satunya bagaimana kita bisa peduli dengan yang dalam kemiskinan. Dan tadi kemiskinan tidak hanya kemiskinan secara uang, tapi ada yang namanya kemiskinan informasi atau information poverty. Itu juga satu hal yang penting dari memang rumahnya pustakaan ya untuk kita bisa kasih masukan tersebut. Thank you, Pak Zulfikar. My question is to Dani. Presentation you have given many examples of innovative policies by libraries around the world and issues that are very important. But if you can pick one, I think, signature issue that represents Indonesian librarianship or Indonesian library and information world, what do you think is the main issue that we face today? Yeah, your answer.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Mr. Antariksa. So, based on the event, right, from the IFLA week, signature issue, there's so much.
Indonesia.
Okay.
Do you think represent Indonesia?
That's linked to Indonesia. I think the one that covered before about public library manifesto is very important because it is also in line with our goal about inclusivity, inclusive, that we want to reach our users that was very many people because we are a very big country, and also because there is the evolving role or missions that was covered in the manifesto. We need to also care about giving services to not only people from young age, but from zero, even from birth to adulthood. And also there are so many types of libraries that are in Indonesia, like not only public or school libraries, but also special libraries that was very based on their institutional goals or vision and mission. And I think that was related to most of what that covered from IFLA Week. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so it's about public libraries, especially the Public Library Manifesto, which is IFLA publication, I think. That we can also read on the IFLA repository. Ya, jadi IFLA sudah menerbitkan namanya Manifesto Perpustakaan Umum gitu ya. Yang itu nanti bisa kita baca bersama di website IFLA. Tapi mungkin perlu diterjemahkan kali ya ke bahasa Indonesia. Iya. Ya itu nanti mungkin siapa yang bisa mungkin. Gitu. Okay, thank you for your answer. Okay, now we would like to open the floor to members of the audience. Mungkin yang pertama dari yang datang di sini, mungkin ada kira-kira yang ingin menyampaikan pendapat atau pertanyaan. Silakan. Ya, silakan Ibu. Ya. Ya, silakan Ibu Yati.
Terima kasih. Kayaknya saya bahasa Indonesia aja ya, lebih lancar. Saya ingin nanya ke Mbak Reni ya. Kita bicara tentang SDG. What do you think about the implementation of SDG in libraries in Indonesia? I know we have literasi untuk kesejahteraan, itu memang salah satu contoh dari SDG. Tapi selain itu apa yang sudah kita kerjakan? Dan kemudian yang kedua, saya mau cerita ke Stephen. Now we are in the era of digital. The Ministry of Information and Communication run a national program. It's called Smart Digital to get the people, any Indonesian, to become more literate in the era of digital. And I think some of librarians has also involved in this program, but we still need to motivate more librarians to join this Ministry of Information program. And it reminds me of the purpose of Internet Governance Forum. Because when we are talking about digital, it's not only mainly how to operate the computer, but we have to think about the internet ethics issue and related to this. And perhaps we have seen that IFLA has uploaded a lot of materials related to the internet policy, etc. But perhaps you can also later on show us the very simple way how the Indonesian librarian can be involved in this digitized world. Thank you. Hanya itu, terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Bu Yati. So siapa dulu mungkin yang respon? Who would like to reply first? Mbak Dani ya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Yati, for the questions. And actually, because if also bring out the topic of SDGs that implemented in libraries, and there are so many initiatives and programs that was delivered by librarians around the world. And some of it are also in line with our program in National Library of Indonesia. But I really consider and have interest to the Green Library project, because they not only care about maybe the buildings, the lighting, etc., but they care also about how can the programs and the initiatives that link to the SDG program are implemented in their own library. They have some indicators that really relevant to support the SDGs, especially maybe there are so many point of SDGs that we have, but it can be in line with the maybe no poverty and also the point of education for all, and also the climate change point about how can we implement that in our library in Indonesia. And actually at the event, I did a library visit to the University of Limerick in Ireland, and they showed us how can the buildings and also collections are bestly really difabel friendly and very climate change friendly, if I may say, because they provide some examples or programs that like the building itself, the lighting and the features are very environmental friendly. And they also, and there is one interesting furnitures, they provide water, free refill waters, and it has statistic in there. So they can they can know how many liters they can save just for water saving. So I think that's about SDG that I can deliver and relate to the IFLA Week event. And about literasi kesejahteraan, literacy for the welfareness, I think it's a very, it's very in line with the SDG's point, like no poverty things. What we need to have brainstorm and maybe give more ideas about the programs is because we do have so many big islands and we have a very various backgrounds of ethnics. So it will be very unique and different when we want to like the equity itself, the term of equity. It will be very unique and different when we want to deliver our missions of libraries to our users in that regions. So I think we need to brainstorm and know what is their, maybe the traditional richness in their regions, and we can know how can we better provide access to them. Thank you so much, Ms. Yati.
Yeah. Do any other speakers would like to add? Yeah, Stephen.
Thank you so much for the question. So I'll answer both. Just so on the SDGs, I think Rennie has summarized extremely well. I think something that we're trying to encourage is to think about the SDGs as something that can help in planning. Because if you look across the SDGs, none of the themes in there are actually new. It's not like education was invented in 2015. It's not like climate change only became an issue in 2015. No. The whole idea with the SDGs is to try and encourage not just governments, but all stakeholders to think differently. So actually, when you're designing your plans for your library, for your association, for whatever, use the SDGs as a starting point and think, well, how can we help on these? Where is it that we can have an impact? Rather than doing what you're always doing and then badging them with the SDGs afterwards. So I think that's what's interesting with the SDGs, is that we are already doing it. It's not hard because we're doing it, but using it as a way of structuring our thinking and our advocacy is interesting. On the point about digital, I think some of it almost comes back that you were making, because the internet it's purely a new technological means of sharing information. So it really isn't that different to what libraries have always been doing in terms of gathering information, sharing information, giving access to information. Being involved in digital is almost a core part of what libraries are doing as part of that mission. It's almost an ethical imperative to be involved. Now, this isn't to say that the internet and digital doesn't require skills, that it isn't scary, that it isn't, I don't know, work, but it is arguably quite a core part of what we're doing. And I think we've seen in a lot of countries, it's become a bigger and bigger part of how we're doing librarian training. It becomes a bigger and bigger part of how we can do advocacy. For example, I don't know, how copyright works online is a big issue for libraries. In terms of how to get involved, just a few quick ideas. The Asia Pacific Internet Governance Forum is taking place next month in Singapore. So it's on a good time zone. I think only 1 hour ahead of here. That's obviously hybrid, so do listen in.
Next year's Internet Governance Forum is in Japan. So again, it's in the region. There will be opportunities to listen in, I don't know, have a watch party. I don't know, make these things part of your own deliberations. Look at how these discussions can take place. Look at other organizations within Indonesia. Is there a local Internet Society chapter? Is there a local chapter of the Institute for Electronic and Electrical Engineers, IEEE? There are quite a lot of organizations that are out there that probably actually are normally very sympathetic to libraries because they share the same goals as libraries actually have. And look at how you can get involved in those discussions, invite them to your conferences, try and get into theirs, because I think a lot of the time, the moment that an internet policy specialist thinks about it, libraries immediately jump out as being a really important partner, a really important ally in building an inclusive internet.
Okay, thank you. Pak Zulfikar, do you have anything to add? To add, sorry. To add to the answers. Okay. Is there any more questions? Okay, yang di belakang dulu, yang mbak ya, yang hijab hitam. Ada panitia kah? Mic-nya? Ya.
Okay, good morning. Hello, my name is Rini. I have a question. In the presentation, all the panelists, sorry, a bit nervous. I have a problem how to convince the stakeholders the importance of the library itself. Is there any tips and tricks how to make the librarians is involved in the policy making of the libraries? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. So from our panelists, anyone would like to answer first? Pak Zulfikar? Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. How to convince the stakeholders? How? It depends, if you are a librarian in the school library, if you have, that you're tasked, you have to close with the headmaster, to the teacher, to the lecturer, to the dean, to the rector. You have to involve, you have to explain, be patient. Sometimes they think, not necessarily the library. We already have internet. Everything is already internet. Sometimes the dean said that. Last 2 months, there is one of the parliament members say, whatever the library already have the Google. So is it the Google can answer? As I put on my slide, the librarian can serve up by heart, the what do you call it? The educated, the the professional librarian by heart, but not the Google. Yes, sometimes Google can answer many things, but this different with ours. Especially nowadays, even we already have digital collection. The people think that digital is free. No, digital we have to pay. We have to subscribe. So we need the library. That's not everyone subscribe the journal or the books, so a lot of people can use it. But the problem is, how do we deal with the agents, the publisher? Is it possible to have that digital collections with the money students? For example, in Indonesia, we have 50,000. The problem is what we call it copyright law, intellectual property. So come to the question, how to convince them that you have to know that you work for the library and you know your profession. If you don't know where you are, you cannot convince them. There's a problem in Indonesia, Stephen. Sometimes Bupati that they have the district, governor, and then sometimes the ministry, we have to convince them that the library is very important. How do we do that? We have to inform. We have to make close with them, you know. That's the answer.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, if I may add, so how to convince our stakeholders? I mean, yes, so just do the first act, bring the idea to the floor, and then bring it frequently and communicate it, deliver the urgency. And if you do have, it doesn't deliver, you can go to like maybe doing networking. There's so many associations, organizations that can, bring out the idea to the public, and then it can be noticed by our stakeholders. And by networking itself, you can have the voices to deliver what ideas that you want to that you thought of, and can improve the librarianship around your institutions. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Yes, Stephen.
So just to add a couple more, the first two are completely contradictory. I'm sorry about this. The first is finding positive examples, doing this within Indonesia, within the region, within the world, because it's always important to show politicians they don't want to do anything that's strange or abnormal. So it's really important to show that supporting libraries is a normal and rational thing to do, because it makes it easier for them to justify it. So pointing to examples of provinces, of communes, of countries that do support their libraries is helpful. A second one is it's explaining the cost of no libraries. I don't know, this with Zulfikar, I don't know, every time that someone tries to claim it's okay, we have Google, you can point to Donald Trump. I don't know, I get in trouble when I say that sometimes when it sounds a bit political, but we can see that, I don't know, access to information is not just about a search engine, it's about skills. And you can paint a very negative picture of what a world looks like without any libraries, of information inequality and poverty, of a lack of information literacy skills, of a lack of innovation, of a lack of public health information. You can paint, I don't know, it's a negative thing, but often decision makers are scared of doing something that will cause harm. So being able to articulate that is important. Another thing to do is just do the psychological exercise on the person that you're working with. What are they interested in and what are they like? And so again, it will depend on where. I know that before we go into meetings, we try and work out what's the background of the person I'm talking to. What have they done? Where do they come from? What are their interests? And so articulating what we're doing around what interests the person that we're talking to is good. I know, go in, look like you're solving a problem, not creating one. That's quite a basic one. So don't just go in there saying, can I have money? Say, look, we have this issue, but through the library, we can resolve it. And yeah, use their language, use their agendas. And again, come in sounding like we understand their issues, we understand their concerns, and that what we're doing is helping them to do the things that they want to do. That's just a few high-level ideas.
Okay, thank you for your answers. Mungkin satu lagi sebelum kita ke yang mengikuti secara online tadi, Mas sudah dapat mic? Ya, silakan Mas. Oh Mas, ya Mas.
Terima kasih. Mohon maaf, pertanyaan dalam bahasa Indonesia, Mr. Stephen Weber. Sejauh mana Saya mohon maaf, saya Agung Wibawa dari Perpustakaan Kabupaten Gunung Kidul, Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Sejauh mana peran dan kolaborasi IFLA dengan pemerintah di negara-negara berkembang dalam mendukung pencapaian SDGs dalam hal ini untuk pengentasan kemiskinan tahun 2030? Apa hal terbaik yang sudah dilakukan? Apa kesulitan yang dihadapi? Begitu, mohon untuk moderator bisa menerjemahkan. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak. Pertanyaannya tadi dari Kabupaten Gunung Kidul ya. Ya, so from Pak Agus ya, Pak Agung, sorry, Pak Agung from Gunung Kidul Regency, he would like to know about the cooperations between IFLA and governments in developing countries, especially regarding the reduction of poverty as mandated in the SDGs. So, what are the accomplishments so far, and what are the challenges?
So thank you for your question, and obviously I apologize that I don't speak Bahasa. So IFLA's role is mainly we work at the global level. And so a first key thing that we try to do is simply put ideas and raise issues in front of leaders and in front of policymakers so that they see, so that they understand the importance of libraries. But this then is all about creating opportunities for you. So for example, at the UN, we worked from 2012 onwards, before my time with IFLA, to make sure that everyone at the UN would hear about libraries, would make sure that they were thinking about libraries when they're thinking about strategies to combat poverty. We've been very strong in underlining the importance of addressing information poverty if we want to address economic poverty. So putting those ideas out there. Similarly, in the work we do with the World Intellectual Property Organization, to come on to WIPO, and here is definitely a friend. It's making it clear that if we want to fight information poverty, if we want libraries to be able to provide maximum digital access to information for everybody without financial barriers, without forcing them to go to the bookshop or Amazon every time, libraries need to be able to function properly. But in the end, what we can do is we can create openings. Ideally, we can bring people, engage people in international meetings where you have much better access to decision makers than you do necessarily within countries. So, for example, in New York earlier this year, we had a representative of Botswana who was able to get her national president's WhatsApp number because it was possible just to walk up to the man and get his WhatsApp number, which would be impossible back home. But it's about creating opportunities and then working with you to try and realize them. So I think it has to be an alliance. I know we are an international organization or federation. You are the National Library, you are the National Association. So it has to be a three-way thing. I know you're the ones who are from Indonesia, you're the one with the legitimacy to push things forward. We are here to help in the way that works best for you.
Okay. Any other speakers would like to add? Maybe? Okay. So yeah, thank you for the answer. I think the main gist of Stephen's point is, sorry, bahasa Indonesia. Sorry. I think mungkin inti dari yang tadi disampaikan oleh Stephen adalah IFLA ini mengetengahkan isu ini kepada negara-negara di PBB. Artinya bagaimana ketika mereka berpikir tentang kondisi goal dari SDG itu supaya para pemangku kepentingan itu juga berpikir tentang perpustakaan. Tadi contoh yang diberikan beliau bahwa kemiskinan itu, ekonomi itu tidak bisa hilang kalau kita tidak tidak memperhatikan masalah kemiskinan informasi. Nah, itu mungkin salah satu retorika mungkin ya yang bisa dipakai ketika kita juga berbicara hal yang sama kepada para stakeholder di Indonesia. Mungkin kira-kira itu Pak Agung, secara singkatnya begitu. Ya, sudah benar ya? Benar ya? Oh, ya, oke. Baik, kita masih ada waktu ya, panitia. Mungkin kita menuju ke para penanya yang sudah bertanya di online. Tadi saya baca-baca sekilas, mungkin kita bisa ke slide nomor 7. Ada pertanyaan dari Bu Mariani di situ. Tadi ini agak terkait juga tadi dengan yang dibahas oleh Pak Agung. Bisa ditampilkan? Ya. Oke, jadi ada pertanyaan dari Ibu Mariani SE, Dinas Perpustakaan dan Kearsipan Kabupaten. Jadi so she is from the Regency Library and Archives. So mungkin bisa dijawab juga oleh yang lain ya. Jadi some of the information is that in my opinion some regions institutions region in Indonesian regions are thought as pariah, which is institutions in the region. So, I think advocacy measures that can be taken to address this adverse political condition, especially in regions. Maybe there is an example from other countries that we can draw upon in responding to this problem. Stephen.
Thank you. I'm trying to think how to respond best. I think it is true that libraries, and this is perhaps a consequence of what I said earlier, it can be difficult to place libraries within a bureaucracy. Because first of all, libraries are about delivery, but they're about delivering in a lot of different ways. We're not necessarily just, as I said earlier, delivering on culture, delivering on education, delivering on innovation. So it's quite difficult to place libraries. It's also, it's not necessarily, it's an institution that is open, that invites people in. It's not got a single agenda, like it's not delivering a curriculum or delivering an individual particular service. So I think it's normal that sometimes it can be difficult to understand what libraries are about. Now, how we address this, one way is simply, it is about communicating, about showing that we are doing cool things, that we're doing really good things. So the National Library website is a great example of highlighting all the work with communities, I don't know, looking like showing that we are institutions that get things done, that actually need to be paid attention to, that can actually contribute, rather than this slightly confusing, difficult to understand organization on the side. I think as well, I think again, there's a lot of work to be done around just communicating what a library is today. I think we often do suffer from the fact that by the time that someone gets to a position of power, they're normally a little bit older. And so their perception of libraries dates back to whenever they were at university or even in school. And so there's people often have a very old-fashioned image of what a library is. And so we need to do communication work on just the role of libraries, on what it means to be a library, on the function that we have. Here is where things like the UNESCO IFLA Public Library Manifesto come in, because you can point to something that UNESCO has put its name on to say that actually this is what a library is like today. It is not what you remember from 30 or 40 years ago. I think in terms of countries where there has been, libraries do get seen, it's always a bad example to give something from the Nordics because they are kind of exceptional. In Finland, which is, I don't know, has a great example, they managed to persuade the new coalition government 3 years ago that if they wanted to talk about their political program, if they wanted to engage citizens in what the government was planning to do, they should do a series of meetings in libraries. So actually members of the coalition government in Finland went to a series of public libraries in order to present what they were doing and take questions. And that's a great example. That's really showing what libraries can do. And when you get the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, the Ministry of Economy and the Ministry of Education into a library to do that, that's excellent if that can be done.
Oke, mungkin untuk perspektif lokal mungkin ya dari Pak Zulfikar atau Mbak Reni, silakan kalau mau nambahkan.
Well, actually, based on my case, actually, my background is from the research libraries, so it is based on educational background. So you have your own specialties or expertise to deliver your expert to the stakeholders. So how can you have a better positions in your institutions? It's just by showing off your expertise. So I think I want to also echoing your about multi-purpose institutions, because libraries covered so many different mission of their own institutions, like me, who is working in a research institutions. So I think the way we want to make library position is important is by delivering the urgency of its needs when we want to serve our stakeholders like researchers, etc. So I think that if it's in my case, I will bring it out to my my supervisors. Thank you.
Oke, Pak Zulfikar.
Ya, mungkin pertanyaan ini memang agak lokal ya. Jadi bagaimana pustakawan kita seolah-olah seperti tempat buangan gitu. Kemudian juga pejabat-pejabat yang sudah hampir-hampir pensiun akhirnya ditempatkan di perpustakaan. Saran saya kepada teman-teman yang juga pengalaman, welcome aja. Selamat datang Bapak, kemudian jelaskan mengenai fungsi kita sebagai pustakawan. So, jangan kita benci gitu. Jadi terima dengan tangan terbuka. Ya. Jadi kepada teman-teman di kabupaten, di dinas perpustakaan, provinsi atau kabupaten, memang itulah yang terjadi. Jadi kalau Ibu mau mengalami mengenai kenaikan pangkat, ya, tentu ini tergantung kepada karya atau kredit. Ya. Kemudian kalau memang merasa disakiti, kalau menurut saya Anda pegawai negeri ya petunkan aja. Mungkin sekali waktu, atau kalau tidak juga mungkin IPI ya, sebagai organisasi yang juga harus peduli terhadap organisasi. Apa masalahnya? Mungkin IPI bisa menjembatani. Kalau ada di Jawa Barat, ajukan dulu ke IPI Jawa Barat. Ya. Kalau tidak selesai bisa ke nasional, bisa aja. Jadi itulah fungsinya organisasi profesi. So this is uncommon. It's common in Indonesia. So the library is not a popular, place to work for. So that's why the people, what do you call it, orang buangan, ya, they put in the library. And sometimes, because Indonesia is different, our librarian, professional librarian, the highest one, can retire at the 65 years old. So that's why some of the bureaucrats, they want to be professional librarian, but they have no background, they become, they used to be a boss in their institution. No, they come to our profession and the high levels. So in this case, I say to them, my friend, just welcome to them and say, what is our profession? And I said, at least we are going to feed the information to the poor people. Poor is not mean a poor in food, you know, poor information as well. So that's who knows that some of them can be realized that the library is not the bad place as the thing before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Kita mungkin masih ada waktu buat pertanyaan lagi ya, panitia. Satu, okay. One more question. So let's see. Okay, let's see the question from Alberto. Slide 2, I believe. Okay, yeah, okay, we get the question. So this is directed to Stephen, but also other speaker and Mbak can also chime in. In Indonesia, we have curricular, which also has an impact on libraries that cannot massively digitize their collection independently. So digital collections are still very limited, especially on books that are widely accessed by users. I think this is about the rank of the book. So the book rank prevents it to become digitized. So this applies for collections before 2016. What do you think about this phenomenon, and how should libraries deal with this? So about the amount of information that are still undigitized. What can we do to our users that request this kind of information? Stephen.
Thank you. So this is also one of my pet topics. It's where I started with IFLA, was around copyright. So, you know, obviously a lot depends on national law. We're never going to encourage librarians to go out and break the law, but it's worth looking at this and looking at the potential that there may be, potentially even working with the Intellectual Property Office, the Copyright Office, to make sure that the law is interpreted in a way that allows you to digitize and give access to works. When copyright is put together, when we work with copyright, obviously, a key goal is not to undermine the market. So, we do have an interest in ensuring that great books, great materials continue to be produced, that we actually have information published that then we can provide to users. But I think, as has been, a lot of our users, a lot of the people we're serving are not those who would be able to buy books anyway. And so it's not like by providing information, we are reducing sales. These are never sales that are going to happen at all. And I think then when we have those conversations with copyright offices, we need to make it clear that firstly, digitizing and giving access to books through libraries does not necessarily harm sales. We need copyright agencies to understand that as parts of government, they have a mission to deliver all human rights, not just the right to benefit from the fruit of works. And all human rights include the rights to information, to culture, to research, to education. So we need to make sure that copyright laws are drafted in a way that helps. So I think two elements. Firstly, work with the copyright offices, encourage them to think, well, we have an issue. Digitizing and giving access to works in a secure, controlled way. We're not talking about taking the latest textbook and putting it up on the internet for free, but being able to digitize and give access is a core part of what we're doing. And that as far as we can interpret the current rules to say that that's okay, then that's good. But I think longer term, having a sit down with the Copyright Office, bringing in the Education Ministry, bringing in the Research Ministry, and making sure that copyright law in future is actually balanced and is not just seen as a means of supporting revenues to publishers would be helpful, because we do need that balance. We do need authors, we do need publishers, but we also need access.
Okay. I think the other panelists have something to add. Maybe starting from Pak Zulfikar or Mbak Reni. Yeah. Okay, Mbak Reni.
Well, in my case, I think I have a similar case or issues regarding how can we open our research data or collections, like scientific collections, to the public, because some of them might be under embargoed contract, and also some of them are closed just because they are under copyright law. And we do have some discussion with the Creative Commons license. So we do, in that discussion, we compare our copyright law and then the other thing about the other regulation that can be compared, and we can have the middle output. How can we make this kind of research data, I think, to be open under some terms and conditions. So that's on my case when we want to talk about research data. But for scientific publications, we do have a need to consider their copyright that was entitled in that collection. So I think when we want to digitize them, we can put the access to be open, moderate, or closed, depending on the need of our users when they want to access that. Thank you.
Okay, so we need to consider on a case by case basis, yeah. Okay, Pak Zulfikar?
Yes, as I said that in our Asta Etika, the number 7, that's we recognize and respect to intellectual property rights. That's our code of conduct. But sometimes in front of us or our eyes, so many people make a photocopy the books. Some they digitalize, books. So in our law, as far as I know, after 50 years, this allowed to publish, to to replace, to make the other publications. But before you have to get the permission from the writer or the publisher. And if possible, that's if it is dealing with the education, I think we can ask the Ministry of Education. And then I don't know exactly. I think Mr. Fadli, you know about the copyright office. We have the copyright office in Indonesia. So as Mr. Stephen said, that we have to work with the. There is no law without exception. Even we have law, must be exception. So you use the exception. So Alberto, that's your question is very good, but it happened in our country, and then sometimes it's not, it's not easy one, even in university. Yeah. So I'm teaching this one, and my student make a photocopy the books, So this, photocopy is about the economic, and plagiarism about the scientific. So whenever sometimes they publish the books only 2000s, it cannot sell in 2 years. Where the author can get money, publisher can get money. So somewhere we have to think that for my friends, if it is in Bahasa Indonesia, please buy the new one. Do not make a photocopy. That's again the Asta Etika. But for the books in English, do not allow us. But if possible, just try to get a permission from the users. And as far as I know, in National Library, Buworo, we have the special agreement with the publisher about the digital collection. Is it right? So we can, gandakan 10,000 or 10 users use it, or can the user in Indonesia use one books whenever you buy the books, and then all user in Indonesia can access those books, even this digital thing.
Copies. Yeah. So if people can use at the same time, only 10 people can use the same book at the same time. Yeah.
How about the number 11?
Number 11, they have to wait.
They have to wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if they submit, finish with the period, if I listen, 10 days or 2 weeks, if I'm not listening. And then just like the regular libraries in a conventional term. Yeah.
But because I'm involved with the Department of Education, if possible, the government buy the books. Like what we call it, buku wajib di SMA itu apa namanya? Textbooks. Textbook in the high school, the compulsory for the high school, senior high school, the government asks the writer to write a book and we pay. 50 million, 100 million is depend. So when the copyright, it's belong to the government. So everyone can publish, can use it everywhere. So in this case, I think government have to involve with that important, not only rice information, also the same with the rice. See? Not only import the rice, if possible, import the books as well, and then ask them to, to buy, and then share to our people in the country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answers. Karena waktu kita sudah memasuki akhir, ya ini masih ada beberapa pertanyaan lagi, cuman saya menyarankan ini untuk pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang belum terjawab, mohon maaf belum bisa dijawab. Tapi ini pertanyaan-pertanyaan ini yang sifatnya misalnya bagaimana menjalankan jurnal dari IFLA, kemudian bagaimana literasi informasi di sekolah, kemudian bagaimana pendidikan di bidang perpustakaan. Ini ada di publikasi IFLA. So IFLA has made publications about these topics, about public libraries, about education in LIS, library and information science, about public libraries, what is the other one? About literacy. We can access it on the IFLA repository, but unfortunately for many of the items, they are still not available in Indonesia. But I think I saw a few of the items, I forgot which are indeed available in Indonesia. So maybe try it out. Bisa mengunjungi repository IFLA, di situ sudah banyak dikasih kajian yang disampaikan, dipublikasikan, dan itu bisa digunakan kita di Indonesia sebagai rujukan. Kira-kira begitu. Okay, panitia, can we spend a little time for closing statement? Yeah, just maybe 1 or 2 minutes from each speaker. Starting from, I think in the first order maybe, yeah. Mbak Reni, first.
Well, my closing statement is the same with the last slide. I want to requote the Nelson Mandela, who said that it is impossible, it's always impossible when it is done. So when we want to do something, we have initiatives, it seems impossible, but we will do it anyhow. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And then Pak Zulfikar, yeah, Pak Zulfikar.
Okay, thank you very much. My conclusion is, I back to my slide. Recover together, recover stronger. Means we have to work together. It's a must. There is no any library can buy can collect all the publication. I don't know how many co-publication in the world, no. In Indonesia as well. And no any library can fulfill the user needs instantly. So they need cooperation. Cooperation, coordination, synergization, networking is a must. And I said, cooperation not only to avoid the weaknesses, we have to share the strength. In our religions, tangan di atas lebih baik daripada tangan di bawah. Memberi. So I mean in Islamic though, the highest hand better than our hand. So that's mean we try to help the disadvantaged people. And then yes, kemudian kepada teman-teman kita Pustakawan Indonesia, saya ulangi kembali, bersama kita bisa melakukan suatu, apalagi ke depan tidak mungkin kita untuk membeli semua terbitan, apalagi kalau sudah dalam bentuk digital. Ya. Oleh karena itu kerjasama antar pustakawan merupakan suatu keharusan, baik dalam bentuk nasional, bentuk regional, maupun dalam bentuk internasional. Kadangkala hubungan kita sesama anggota organisasi, komunikasi informal lebih lancar daripada formal. Oleh karena itu, pada teman-teman sekalian, untuk selalulah ikutlah dalam organisasi. Kemudian juga kalau ada pertanyaan yang menyangkut IPI, yang menyangkut lokal, yang hari ini tidak terjawab, nanti panitia bisa sampaikan ke IPI. Insya Allah kami akan bantu, dan itu salah satu tugas, ya. Atau yang menyangkut apa yang saya paparkan hari ini. Mudah-mudahan ke depan, ya, pustakaan kita. And Steve, thank you very much for your sharing knowledge for us. We do hope that we can work together with our session, yeah, with IPI and with other organizations. As I said, we have around 18 organizations in Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, Stephen.
Firstly, obviously, thank you. I think I felt that the questions that you were asking, and I don't know about the quality of my answers, but these are also the sorts of questions that are at the heart of what IFLA does, at the heart of what our different volunteer groups do. And these are questions that are always really exciting, not just to talk with one guy up on stage, but with the full community of your peers from around the world. So I suppose my closing line is you are so welcome within IFLA. I don't know, get those memberships up, get involved, get into committees, make sure that all the great work that you're doing is being heard, but also make sure that the questions that you're asking are on the agenda, and so that other people are coming back, sharing their ideas, their examples that then you can go and apply on the ground. So keep being involved.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Let's give a round of applause for our speakers. Yeah, so that concludes our Bincang-Bincang Pustakawan or Librarian Talks. This is not a one-off event, not the first nor the last. Yeah, so we will have further discussions down the road. In fact, we have already had Librarian Talks program since 2021. I think it's monthly discussion. So monthly we discussions that are like this. We discuss knowledge and information sharing with librarians and professionals that are adjacent from with the library information sector. So again, Stephen, Pak Zulfikar, Reni, thank you once again for your insights that you shared with us today. I hope this can energize us library and information professionals in Indonesia to do critical works in the future. Semoga bisa menjadi penyemangat buat kita semua. Walaupun mungkin kita masih banyak permasalahan, tidak kita sudah menemukan satu yang bisa memotivasi kita. So Thank you for the audience for the exhibition. If there is any comments in this session, and I give the floor back to the MC, Balara Alexander.
Okay, thank you, Bapak Antariksa, for the dynamic and fruitful session. So that concludes our event today. And we are very honored to have all the representatives to share their views on this librarian talks. And once again, on behalf of organizing committee, I would like to extend gratitude to all speakers and all the participants here, and also thanks to you who joined virtually. And we also apologize if there's any inconvenience during the event, and looking forward to seeing you all at the next event. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please remain on stage for the speakers. Yes, we are going to have a group photo.
Yeah, it's okay. Yes.
Sebagai tambahan informasi Bapak Ibu untuk yang hadir tadi di sini, untuk mendapatkan sertifikat nanti bisa scan QR code yang akan di-share di layar juga ya.
Kenapa yang bukan penyelenggara yang ngomong gitu, tolong.
Ya Pak.
Biar semangat. Ya Pak. Ayo. Kalau foto boleh disiapkan ya. Jadi siapa yang mau ikut?
Iya, iya. Belum.
ada